So, what if we let Black History Month go? So I never understood why my favorite creators, FD Signifier and the big cats had multiple channels. I could understand it from a monetization standpoint, but I never understood it from like a content standpoint until I started making these really elaborate, well-researched video essays, which I absolutely love. They're my favorite thing to do. I love diving into research, but it presents an opportunity because a lot of times I'm running through ideas and then I'm like, well, I'll put that in a video, but the length of research that I do, sometimes it takes me like a month to make a video. And I'm like, I want to get these thoughts out faster so I can talk to people about them. And so I think that this segment is just going to be called, penny for your thoughts. If you've been following me for a minute, you know that I've been dropping like short form videos that are penny for your thoughts and then getting your thoughts, which is kind of my favorite thing, but it's a completely separate thing from my long form video essay. So if you see a video and it says penny for your thoughts, know that it's not going to be a long, well researched out video essay. It's just going to be some some quick hits so I can present some thoughts to y'all. And this one might get me canceled, but I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks. I asked my partner and his exact words was, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So y'all know me, y'all know my heart. So I'm hoping that I don't get canceled with this one, but I'm very curious on what y'all's thoughts would be. But in today's penny for your thoughts, I'd like to present my case against Black History Month. Even saying it, I'm like, ooh, girl. But you know what? I'd like to present my case and, let me cook, okay? All right, so how I came to this. So back in December, I wanted to drop a video that kind of did a deep dive into They Cloned Tyrone, which is a fantastic film if you have not seen it. But it was December, and my brain was like, okay, well, schedule out your topics, schedule that one out for Black History Month because no one's going to care about it right now. Maybe let's just wait until Black History Month. And then I didn't even question it. Okay. That should have let me know that was an issue. The fact that this, very Black movie, I was pushing to Black History Month. The little capitalist in my brain was pushing to Black History Month because it's like, well, that's when it'll get the most exposure or people will care about it. And that's such a crazy thought. I don't even think about it again. I just push it out of my mind. And so February rolls around and I'm running behind because I'm working on a beast of a video about, selling public goods to private services, how it's removed our identity and turned us into consumers. So be on the lookout for that one. And so when I start working on the They Cloned Tyrone video again, my brain is stressing out because it's like, I got to get this video out. I got to get this video out before Black History Month ends. I got to get this out before Black History Month ends. And then it occurred to me in that moment that I was limiting the entirety of the Black experience to 28 days out of the year. And why was I doing that? And like, what if we collectively stopped doing that? What if we stopped doing that? What if we did not move as though Black history can be, explored in 28 days, but that it should be relegated to 28 days. Okay, here's the arguments of my case. Anybody who has been paying attention should be able to understand that it's more than likely within the next few years, honestly, they're probably gonna try to push it next year, that Black History Month will be put on the chopping block, okay? All you have to do is take a look around. They're snatching up murals, trying to sign petitions to release the cat who suffocated George Floyd. Like, they're doing these things, right? And so if you're paying attention, it's pretty easy to see that the most logical next line of thinking is, oh, they're going to snatch up Black History Month. And for a number of reasons. One, because Black people tend to be the first raptor testing the electric fence, and every other group, Women's Month, Hispanic Heritage, Asian, Pacific, all of that will follow soon after. It's inevitable. But Black people tend to be the first one that we run the experiments on. So if you've been paying attention to that, then it's more than likely inevitable. And my case is, what if we didn't stop it? What if we didn't hoop and holler and scream and fight about erasure? And what if we didn't do it? What if we just said, okay, all right, And I know that there's going to be some people who feel like, oh, you're trying to assimilate. This is not a matter of assimilation. This is not a matter of assimilation. This is nowhere near close to a matter of assimilation, because I don't think that there should be assimilation. I think that there should be a celebration of all cultures, because that's what makes us uniquely different, is the celebration. But with that being said, one of my biggest issues with the left, with democratic institutions, is one of the ways that I think that they need to improve is they seem to have a dedicated reactionary approach, meaning, somebody does something and then they're reacting to it. They're not necessarily being proactive in the ways that I just feel that we could be. And one of the really great things about conservatives is they write all their stuff down. Okay? They write it down. I probably started fully losing faith with the ability to at least fight against Project 2025 mass scale when I started watching how the story broke last year. We had multiple people in Congress who were referencing content creators. Like, that might not concern some of you, but that concerns me a little bit, because you have the content creators and the journalists who are prioritizing talking about it long before members of Congress. So I don't know, they got a lot of stuff going on. Their baffles were covered. I don't know what happened, but the fact that, you had creators on the front line talking about it, and then Congress people referencing, videos or talking points from those creators, it was like, damn, are we the ones out here who are sending the messages? Are we the ones who are creating the messaging? Whereas, from like the Republican right-wing conservative pipeline, like the mass scale of media in which they are in control of, and the messaging that they send down from the top, it's so powerful. It was very scary for me to realize that, for the most part, the left seems kind of like they're on their own when it comes to stuff like this, which is crazy to me because, the conservative think tanks actually wrote the plan down, and they've been writing it down for decades. Project 2025 is like the 10th or so mandate for leadership. Like, that's the name of the actual book. It's the Mandate for Leadership. So, if that's the 10th one, reactionary, we are playing reactionary games. And, and I think because we are reactionary, or the left is very reactionary, a lot of times what we're seeing is rage, reacting about stuff. But what if instead of waiting until it happens, because it's going to happen, they're going to try to push Black History Month out. What if there was a concentrated effort right now to push for a well-rounded curriculum? Not just American exceptionalism, which ends up creating two different realities. And, you call the actual reality, meaning the whole picture, CRT, instead of just actual history. What if we got ahead of that? Civil rights history is not Black history. Civil rights history is American history. Black American history is American history. All of the history that happened in this country is American history, not just the parts that make us feel warm and fuzzy and proud. We don't get to pick and choose. We don't get to pick and choose. We don't get to take credit for all of the successes and then ignore all of the atrocities and say, no, that doesn't matter. That didn't make us what we are. When in actuality it did, especially if we wouldn't be where we are currently without having done it that way. So any love that is grounded in the myth is not real. That's why America continues to have the problems that it has and will continue to have the problems that it has, because you have a significant portion of the population trying to convince another significant portion of the population that they should believe a fairy tale instead of looking at America truly as it is, and then accepting the reality as it is and saying, okay, this is what made us. How do we make sure this never happens again? How do we get in control of or aware of the behaviors and attitudes and ideas that made this type of dehumanization possible? How do we do that? You can't do that if you're simultaneously trying to push a narrative that, oh, slavery happened everywhere, or, we conquered. It's like, no, dude, you can't do that. Like, what, you can do that, but trying to expect everybody to live this false reality it's disingenuous. It's not real. And so what's a harder task, to try and convince everyone to live the same lie, or to lay out the picture clearly as it is? And then, then move forward. It's like dating someone who never shows vulnerability or pretends that nothing bothers them or pretends that, mental health issues don't exist. And their ex is always the one who's tripping and it was never them because they're such a nice guy and everything is perfect. Everything is perfect and you're perfect. And then they refuse to acknowledge that sometimes they can be a grump in the morning or sometimes they have a bad habit of leaving the peanut butter open. Sometimes they commit human rights violations within their own borders. It gives you the ick because it's not real. And the worst part about it is you know the truth, and then you have this person in front of you who's kind of trying to convince you that they're such a nice guy, when in actuality, what would make them a nice guy to you would be able to acknowledge their mistakes. You'd much rather be around someone who can acknowledge their mistakes, not only acknowledges their mistakes, but actually attempts to change the behavior, constantly iterating and making things better. You'd feel much more comfortable with a cat like that. You don't feel comfortable with the person who's telling you that, mental health doesn't exist. It's a made up problem. And, no human rights were violated. And that's a scary place to exist when people are willing to ignore history to keep up an idea of being exceptional. So for me, by us fighting to keep an institution like Black History Month, one that limits the holistic view of American history to just 28 days throughout the year, instead of us demanding a curriculum and an education that allows for a well-rounded understanding of American history, something that enables the learner to develop an understanding of what it means to be a citizen by engaging with both the good and the bad places we have gone equally, and, how to work together to ensure that we are actually an iterating society in a realistic way instead of a nationalistic, exclusionary indoctrination by creating a fan fiction called the United States of America. That's what we're doing. We are creating a fan fiction and then we're expecting everyone else to be okay with the fan fiction. And that's not realistic. That's why America will never be great and why it will continue to have problems, because it is unwilling to acknowledge its own inadequacies. I saw this video where this person said white people have never been more divided. And I couldn't help but think oh, that's not true. But that's what happens when two realities are allowed to exist. If you are someone who does not spend a lot of time with history, then it would be very easy for you to think that. It would be very easy for you to think that white people have never been more divided than they are right now. And I personally feel like maybe Black History Month contributes to that. To me, Black History Month gives people who would very much prefer to put Black history into a nice, neat little 28-day box that they just have to grin and bear through because, it makes the Blacks happy and they just can't wait for it to be over. It gives them that. They can do that. It gives people an out from engaging with the parts of American history that they don't care to seek out on their own, that we are not even encouraging people to seek out on their own. Why would they? They aren't Black. That's not my history. It allows them to uphold the TV show that is America and say, this show is absolutely amazing. Best show you've ever watched. You have to watch it. Actually, you know what? You have to watch it except for season 3. We don't talk about season 3. They had a new director and you know what? It's not even worth it. It's not even worth the time. Just skip it. And you'll still be able to understand what's going on in the next season. The storytelling is that good. That's what we're doing. That's what's happening. The thing that I don't think that a lot of people are realizing is that this method is not just rewriting our history, people of color, Black people. It's rewriting their history, non-people of color, white people. And it encourages the idea that, America's never been more divided. It completely ignores the reality that in the 60s, white people were so divided. They were so divided that they killed other white people for helping Black people. Okay. And everybody could get it, okay? They killed reverends, they killed students, they killed volunteers, they killed people in the military. They even killed wealthy businessmen, even white women, just for helping Black people. That history is American history. How many white people can you name off the top of your head who were killed in the fight for civil rights for Black people? The fact that you probably can't name any should tell you that's a problem. That's a serious issue because it's erasing your history as well, so that you can feel comfortable with going around and saying things like, America's never been more divided, because that's necessary for you to believe in order to maintain the system. It's necessary for you to believe that we were never divided. We were so divided, extremely divided, always have been in some way, shape, or form and capacity. And as long as we're allowed to teach alternate versions of history, or we're allowed to label actual history CRT, or label it indoctrination, like that's insane. That's what we're doing right now. White people were so divided that they killed other white people just for helping Black people. And the fact that that history has been taken from you and lumped in with Black history and forgotten about, that should make white people upset. Like, why don't you guys want to know your full history? Why don't you want to know everything that went into where we are right now? And not just the bad, because it's super easy to fall down the white people are terrible, because they're painting it in this way that it is so incredibly black and white. There is no nuance. There is no one. And not even from like a white savior standpoint. There were just genuine people who were like, this is not okay, stood up and paid the ultimate price for it. Like, that's the reality of the situation. There is nothing performative or no performative activism about dying to protect the rights of another person. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Take whatever beef up you have with activism and performative activism. There were genuine soldiers who died for the equality and the rights of people who did not look like them. And that, because it gets lumped in with Black history, it gets lost. That's the reality of the situation. It gets lost. I would much rather us get to a point when we eventually start to see the attacks on Black History Month. They're going to come. I'd much rather us be in a position to where, and by we, I mean left-leaning people, we don't even acknowledge the rage bait. Don't validate it with a reaction. Don't. And this doesn't mean be a punk and take it laying down. But they're trying to do something to you when they say, oh, we're going to start a petition to get, Derek Chauvin out of prison. Don't validate it with a reaction, because we're not defined by holidays or murals that they dig up because we knew that this day was coming. We're not valid. We exist outside of those things. And because we knew this day was coming, we had all the proper parties doing what they can do to ensure that accurate reflections of history are being presented in our curriculum. Okay, so I guess my hot take is I would rather, the space be spread out throughout for everyone instead of fighting to keep Black History Month. Honestly, I'd rather it be something of like our own cultural choosing, not something that was given to us to pacify, and then to not only pacify, but to soothe a certain guilt. I'd like it to be something like, how you hear in Italy, oh, Italy shuts down for the summer because they're all on vacation. Like something like, well, everyone knows this time of year is when Black Americans do, whatever, based on whatever faction of Black American you celebrate. We be extra kind to ourselves. We worship the sun. We have giant cookouts where we swap recipes. We go on vacation, anything that we choose collectively. It's something of our own choosing, so that when they snatch it away, we're not like, give us back Black History Month, I personally feel like Black people shape culture all over the world. So surely we can think of something and build something both culturally and chosen by us. That makes sense. So, what if we let Black History Month go? We didn't fight it when they inevitably take it away. We don't give them the benefit of the reaction. We fight to, go to your local school board meetings to have a citizen agreed upon history. Realistically. And I feel like white people should take this personally. Like, your history is getting erased too. What don't you know about yourself? And not just like that you're a monster or a colonizer or whatever. Like, what don't you know? What heroes don't you know about? Because you're told that you should only be looking up to like Musk or Bezos, or like you're not looking up to the everyday people who actually drove change. So what if, we didn't kick and scream and holler, and we instead were proactive. We didn't react about what we want to see, and we push towards that. That was a scary one. Please don't clip this and be like, Deja said, we don't need Black History Month. Stop it. I'm insulted by Black History Month. There's a very different thing. I'm insulted by the idea that, the totality of the Black American experience should be boiled down into 28 days. Maybe we should stop allowing that. Doesn't mean we need to stop celebrating and have a mutually agreed upon cultural celebration or anything like that. But maybe it's time to evolve into the next iteration of that. And we have more power, more soft power than we have ever had. Maybe it's time to kind of like truly do our own thing in that regard, while simultaneously making sure that we are not allowed to be, erased from the picture to further a narrative of American exceptionalism because we are a part of that history. And I feel like every other marginalized group should also push for that. You don't need a Native American, history or, no, it's a part of history. Also that, but like, doesn't mean stop doing what you're doing to celebrate your culture, but demand that it's incorporated in the main so that people don't get to live alternate realities. No one should be living in an alternate reality in America. That's the problem. That's where the division comes in, is you have people living different realities in the sense that there's people who have been fully indoctrinated into American exceptionalism and that's all there is. And, we're the best and we conquered and we, and then there's people who live in the reality of, it means nothing to me that America was added to a human rights watch list very recently because we've been in the human rights violation game. That's two different realities. There's people who are shocked and surprised, like, oh my goodness, we're added to this list. And there's people who are like, why did we wait so long? Why did we wait so long? So let me know what y'all are thinking about that. I just don't think that we should give them our rage, our frustration, our anger. They want our reactions. That's why they're doing things like ripping up Black Lives Matter and making these like, okay, cool, whatever. Anyway, I guess all this to say that my case for not fighting for the Black History Month acts that is sure to come down the pipeline is instead start proactively working towards ensuring a curriculum has a balanced reality instead of this lopsided Frankenstein, You don't have to wake people up if you never put them to sleep. That's all I got for y'all. That was a scary one, but I'm still curious what you think. Don't be a monster person though. I promise it's not edgy. It's actually so cringe. It's so cringe to be a monster person for no reason. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I think the only thing cringier than being a troll online is like being a troll in real life. Hobbies, friends, bring back hobbies. Finally, dare I say it, penny for your thoughts.